I have a band.
You?
Yeah, like, our shirts just stay on these walls.
What if they suck?
What if they're butt raw?
What if they're octane core?
I'm just gonna invite them. You better not suck.
Today we are ranking some of the best and worst metalcore and deathcore albums of 2025, starting with Vildhjarta with Where the Forest Sings Under the Eternal Spruce Trees. Yeah, once again, I'm not going to attempt the full pronunciation after this point. Also, just never been a big fan of this Swedish Thal crew over the years, but this one actually really kept me coming back. It's the one where it kind of like changed my opinion on them. The dynamics are great. The pacing's great. There are some awesome little layers to peel back that I was enjoying more and more each time I re-listened to it. Some really great vocals too, with some really like snarly moments. Carries the runtime. I'm putting this one up at perfection. Next up is Drown in Sulphur with Vengeance. The third album from this Italian symphonic deathcore crew with a penchant for wearing corpse paint, and I'm usually a big quality over quantity guy, so this coming out just a year after the album I ranked relatively low in my 2024 core list didn't really fill me with confidence. I'd say though, in the end, I think I enjoyed this one a bit more than Dark Secrets of the Soul, especially in the second half with more memorable tracks like Scarlet Rain, Absentia, and Veil of Deception. I don't think it's quite on the level of some of the other albums we're going to get to, but I'm going to put it at great tier. Next up is All That Remains with Antifragile. Alright, talk about an album that I went into with pretty low expectations, as I love their first two like major records. I love, but their later output definitely has left something to be desired, though the last album was pretty good, and honestly, I really enjoyed this album. I didn't love the singles, but then I think within context, they kind of grew on me, and then the rest of the album is just really strong. Like, I think it's probably their best since the fall of Ideals, especially front to back. It's nice to hear them heavy again, and having the guitarist from Born of Osiris is kind of a cool little twist too, bringing some new sounds into the fold. I'm putting it at amazing. All right, we have Killswitch Engage with This Consequence. So alternatively, I had much higher expectations for this one, as I've enjoyed more of Killswitch Engage's albums over the years, going all the way back to high school. Been a long time listener, and yeah, I loved the last album for this one too, but unfortunately, this one just did not really do it for me. I really tried, like I listened and this is a case where like I tried to force myself to enjoy it more than I did. I don't think it's bad by any means. In fact, it's very like listenable. It has a lot of their like typical Killswitch Engage qualities, but it's just lacking that like special sauce. There's just something there that is just missing for me. And for that reason, I put it at good. I know a lot of people disagree with me, and that is fine. As always, all of this is just my opinion, so put your own rankings down in the comments, and if you're enjoying the video so far, hit the like button. But moving on, we have Great American Ghost with Tragedy of the Commons. I have loved this highly underrated band since 2015's very sardonic Everyone Leaves, and right from Kerosene, they sound as pissed off as ever on this one. Great track. Great album overall. I think it's a little inconsistent. I could have done with more of the kind of heavier tracks and fewer of the more melodic ones. The ratio is just a little bit off, but I think they bring an impressively bleak atmosphere and are a name more people should be checking out. I'm also putting them at amazing. And that actually brings me to my first mistake. I meant to put All That Remains at fantastic. My bad. Moving on, we have Memphis May Fire with Shapeshifter.
I think I cry if I'm chaotic. I don't chase the pain when I stray neurotic.
Now, I remember vaguely enjoying this metalcore band back when like Challenger came out in 2012, but since then they have become one of the poster boys of octane core, which is just not my jam. Some of the heavier moments on the singles had me intrigued and hoping that this would be good, but overall it's just more Imagine Dragons core energy, especially on tracks like Infection, and that just turns me away. So I'm putting it at okay. I don't think it's terrible, but it did make my like worst albums of that month list.
Really bad.
Next up, we have Paleface Swiss with Cursed. Now, Paleface is basically what you get when you cross metallic hardcore a la Kubla Khan with Slipknot's self-titled debut, right down to the pingy snare tone and Zelly's unhinged gasps for air, the guitar riffs. The vocal performance is definitely a highlight of this album. I saw some fans say that they felt like this was a drop off from the previous one, but I felt like it was tighter. That other album felt kind of bloated and inconsistent. I enjoyed this one almost all the way through. It has some kind of cringier moments, but I enjoyed enough to put it at fantastic. Next up is Bury Tomorrow with Will You Haunt Me with That Same Patience. Another one that was kind of a disappointment for me with this 8th album from this UK metalcore band formed in 2009 that I've been enjoying since 2018's Black Flame. I especially enjoyed the implementation of new clean vocalist and keyboardist Tom Prendergast on the 7th Son 2 years ago, but this one also kind of slipped a little bit into octane core territory. Definitely not like the worst example of it, and it rides the line just enough in the right direction that I still enjoy it, but it just didn't quite do it for me like the last one did. It is going to great tier. Next up is Darko with Dethmask 3. So I was a little disappointed with the increasingly melodic turn of the last LP, and so this was a welcome return to the super heavy syncopated rhythmic violence that brought me to this duo to begin with the melodic moments feeling a little bit more kind of dynamic and interesting as well, and mad respect for the Substance sample on Have You Ever? Love that movie. I know this is just an EP. I'm not really going to include a lot of EPs on here, but it's close enough in length to some of the other LPs on here that I felt like it warranted inclusion, and I really enjoyed it and put it at the top, so there you go. Next up is August Burns Red with the Thrill Seeker re-recording. Now, did we really need this? Probably not. I think all the band's albums are already stellar and don't really need like a re-recording, maybe some remasters, but hey, new August Burns Red bringing new versions of the songs from their debut finally with their longtime vocalists. Why not? And I'd say they did an excellent job with it. Tracks like Barbarian hit just as hard while being brought up to the current performance and production levels. I'm going to put it at amazing. Then we have A Day to Remember with Big Ole Album, Volume 1.
Weapon formed against me shall prosper. My will is stronger.
I just have to pause and say, like, what a year for metalcore already. Like, just all these big names, both old and new, putting out stuff. And while some of it hasn't been the greatest, it's been exciting to see. And speaking of which, generally nice to have these guys back. I'm a big fan of their earlier material. I think that they've kind of fallen off a bit, especially You're Welcome was terrible. Like, I thought that was genuinely a pretty bad album. And so this didn't have high expectations for it, and as a result, I think that kind of worked in its favor, because I don't think it's great. It's better than some of the albums on here. There are a few songs on here that I really enjoy, like LeBron, but we'll see what Volume 2 brings. I'm kind of curious how the rest of it pans out, but this one just sort of landed at good tier for me. And we have Balance Breach with Save Our Souls. I'd put this Finnish band in a pretty similar space as Bury Tomorrow, with its mix of heavy and genty verses and soaring melodic choruses. The harsh vocals even sound pretty darn close, and despite not being previously familiar with them, this is the band's third release, and it was pretty quick to get me bobbing my head and screaming along. Another case of it doesn't feel like they're necessarily bringing anything new to the table that I haven't heard before, but the execution is pretty strong, so I'm going to put it at great tier. We also have Stick to Your Guns with Keep Planting Flowers.
The pain we share gives meaning to life, but we turn on each other like dogs in a fight.
The Orange County Crew really bringing it on this one with 24 minutes of pure classic metalcore with both hard-hitting verses and catchy choruses right out of the kind of Architect's prime cookbook. Plenty of headbang-inducing hardcore energy with chuggy guitars and D-beats, but also tons of genuine emotion, too, that comes off as touching as opposed to cheesy. I also appreciate the guest spots here from members of Terror and See You Space Cowboy. Putting this one at fantastic. Then there's Traitors with Phobias. The latest full length from this Florida deathcore crew, who I can't believe initially caught my attention over 10 years ago with the slow and menacing single Arrogance. That was a long time ago. I lived in a completely different state when that came out. Anyways, really tight 33 minutes of pure groove and aggression. Despite keeping things fairly simple, they do a good job of differentiating tracks and keeping things interesting. It's like the approach is often largely the same, but the overall texture is a little bit different with some like hip hop elements and then like a very corn sounding part on Imposter. I love this one. I had trouble putting it down. It's going to perfection. We also have Larccunia Roouu with Extraction. Now, on paper, this seems like an album I should love, and I'm still not exactly sure why I didn't. The emphasis of this North Carolina deathcore crew is definitely on the admittedly demented vocals, which is both what hooked me initially and ultimately kept me around. But outside of those, I'm just not really sure what else they have to offer. People were kind of raving about this album, and I was just sort of like, instrumentation's pretty boilerplate. It didn't really keep me sticking around. I'm putting it at good tier. Then there's Malevolence with Where Only the Truth is Spoken. The fourth full length from this UK band, mixing metalcore and groove metal in a manner that I would compare to like Shadows Fall, which we're still awaiting that comeback release as well. But anyways, for this one, riffs kind of running the gamut from Killswitch Engage to the bluesy vibes of Pantera and Lamb of God, as well as throwing in some vocals that at times reminded me of Bjorn from Soilwork. Lots of 2000s vibes on this one. Enjoyed it quite a bit. I think the first half is better than the second, but I put it at amazing. Then we have Within Destruction with Animetal.
Look how they massacred my boy.
The year of highs and big disappointments in this genre continue with this one. I've been a big fan of these guys since their pure deathcore days with the likes of Void and Deathwish. And even when the fans scoffed at some of the more melodic stuff with Yokai and Lotus, I still really enjoyed it. But this one jumped the shark for me. It got kind of embarrassing. Again, I wanted to love it. I wanted to at least enjoy it, but I just really didn't. I think they really kind of just went down a road that I don't necessarily want to follow them on. So I'll be curious what happens with the next one, but this one is just okay for me, which is sad to see. That is definitely the lowest that any Within Destruction album has ever ranked for me. Then we have Gone Awry with Go Back to Sleep. This band answers the question of what if Hatebreed had Slipknot riffs and big atmosphere, maybe a little Stray from the Path mixed in there as well. Full disclosure again, I am friends with the vocalist Rafi. We've known each other for a long time now, but it's just been cool to watch his band evolve into what it is now, and I try to keep the friendship side out of it. But I know very much that they love both like metallic hardcore and new metal, and all that comes through on this album, and it's just a blast. It's just a really fun time, and yeah, it landed at amazing. And we have Bleeding Through with 9. 26 years into their career, and this Orange County metalcore mainstay is somehow still just as pissed off as ever with this one. Just so many great tracks here, full of aggression from Brandon and both Dead But So Alive and Path of Our Disease, utilizing some very effective additional vocals from Marta for the first time too. Like, I know she's done some backing vocals before, but this is the first time they really brought her into the spotlight, and the ebb and flow of their vocals works so well. Really enjoyed this album. It is going to fantastic. We also have Underoath with The Place after this one. Longtime fan of this band as well since the days of their Only Chasing Safety, but the best words I can use to describe this album are confusing and whiplash, as I put it before. There are some parts that go really hard, especially Generation No Surrender, but it also has a lot of like weird experimentation that I really respect and find thought-provoking, but don't always love or really enjoy. I think it's very ambitious and interesting. I don't hate the experimentation. Like the first time I heard some of those songs, I kind of thought I did, but the more I listened, I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. So a little on the fence with it. Not as good as the last one, Voyeurist, in my opinion, but I'm putting it at great tier. We also have Caliban with Back from Hell. Another group that went pretty hard back in the day, but I wasn't particularly impressed with this 14th outing either, despite seeing some audience members saying that they really loved it. Perfectly fine, some cool guest features too in the likes of Mental Cruelty and Fit for an Autopsy, but ultimately another pretty bland release in my opinion, and I just don't really care for the clean vocals on this one either. Alta Sila has some solid riffs. I'm putting this one at good tier. Ooh, but then we have Mugshot with All the Devils Are Near. This band exists at the perfect crossroads between deathcore and metallic hardcore. Out of San Jose, this is their second record, and with its uncompromising violence, it has quickly become one of my favorite core albums of the year. Just 26 straight minutes of complete disdain for all humankind, illustrated via unhinged dual vocal callouts and sickening grooves. Highly recommended to fans of Mouth Breather or Forever era Code Orange. It is a banger, and it is going to perfection. Pretty high up at that. Next up is Spiritbox with Tsunami Sea. Big step up from the debut, I'd say, with this highly anticipated sophomore effort. I still think that the EPs tend to be their stronger suit, but better pacing and a seeming increased attention on crafting the full experience overall. Some seriously pissed off tracks too, like Black Rainbow and Soft Spine, while also delivering the more kind of drifty melodic moments like Tsunami Sea and Perfect Soul. I know some people are really saying that Eternal Blue was better, but I respectfully disagree. I went back and re-listened to that album, and I still feel the same way, that is extremely overhyped, and this was a big step up from that. It is going to fantastic. We have Employed to Serve with Fallen Star. Album 5 from this UK metalcore band I've been enjoying since 2019's Eternal Forward Motion, and while it was largely the unbridled hardcore and aggression of that album that drew me in, it's been interesting to see them evolve too in an increasingly more melodic direction, and in some pretty surprising ways as well. Some more solid guest spots on this album too. I am putting it at amazing. Another case of I don't think it's quite as good as the last one, but it's got some directions it goes that are maybe a little bit more interesting and make me excited for their future. We also have Bleed From Within with Zenith. The 7th album from this Scottish band formed in 2005, and another one that, despite being deeply into metalcore at that time, I have just never really gotten into them over the years, and this one didn't really change my mind. I give them a lot of credit, as it seems like they put a lot of effort into this record, and it definitely sounds better than a lot of the modern assembly line crap out there, not to mention guest spots from Josh Middleton and even Bran Daler. All the same, the songs just weren't all that memorable, and again, I just didn't connect with it that much, and so putting that great tier. Again, I know some people in the audience liked it a lot more, but them's the breaks for me. We also have Stray from the Path with Clockwork. The 11th full-length and final album from this New York leftist metalcore mainstay crew, and I'd say they go out on a bang. Kubrick's Stare is like the perfect song to encapsulate this year for me, and just lots of headbangers. They're really firing on all cylinders here. I don't think the lyrics get too eye-roll inducing or cringy like they sometimes do, but I've been a fan of them ever since 2013's Anonymous. They can be kind of a guilty pleasure sometimes, but yeah, the great record. I'm putting it at perfection. It's one of my favorites of metalcore this year so far. I'm putting this one pretty high too. We also have Heavy, Heavy, Low, Low with Pain Olympics. The return of this highly influential California mathcore band for their first full length, in quotations, because it's pretty short, since 2008. But yeah, it's only 17 minutes, and that could be fine. Like, less is more for me all the time. But in that 17 minutes, I just don't get a whole lot of this. It's unfortunate, because I like these guys a lot, and I love when these bands just kind of come out of the woodwork and surprise people when you think that you're never going to hear from them again. And yeah, just none of this really stuck with me. It's decent. I'm putting it at good tier. Then there's Your Spirit Dies with My Gnawing Pains Will Never Rest. This is a debut album from this South Carolina metalcore crew that sound like they recorded this back in 2000 with like Trustkill Records. I'm hearing elements of everything from Poison the Well and Shy Halud to God Forbid. Just pure hardcore vocals, raging D-beats, panic chords, and plenty of fun palm-muted riffing. Good times. Putting it at amazing. And also with that, I think it's time that we need to shift over here to make a little bit of room. Next up is Landmarks with The Darkest Place I've Ever Been. Not a lot to say on this one. More pretty generic stuff with some pretty annoying rap elements too. I've heard worse, but this was instantly wiped from my brain. Like the minute I was done with it. Yeah, I try. I always try, y'all, but no, it did nothing for me. Then we have Fall 50 Feet with Counterfeit Recollections. More fusions of very 2000s era metalcore, mathcore, and also post-hardcore from this West Virginia band. They give me notes of everything from Every Time I Die and the Dillinger Escape Plan to the Callous Dowboys. I already very much enjoyed 2021's Twisted World Perspective, and this is a more than worthy follow-up, I would say, with lots of variety and some more lots of guest spots all over this thing. I should probably just stop saying that. It's almost a given. I'm putting this one at great tier. Next up is Thornhill with Bodies. I almost didn't include this album because, frankly, I think they've moved so far away from metalcore on this one that it's not even really a core album. It's just basically a Deftones album, and I am here for it because I love Deftones, and I think this does Deftones better than maybe even Deftones does at this point, even though I still love their newer records too. But man, I was banging my head to this thing. The grooves on it, just such a fun time, especially as we're awaiting the latest from Loathe. This one, like, more than fills those shoes, and I think it's their best by far. It is going to perfection, also pretty high up. I lost count of how many times I listened to this in a row. Then we have Cabal with Everything Rots. Album 4 from this Danish deathcore band that seriously caught my attention with the dark and punishing Mark of Rot back in 2018. And while the last two records found them experimenting a bit more with melodic moments, this one feels just like a return to pure nihilism and despair, that debut kind of sound, but also taking some tips from the electronic elements of bands like Darko. There's even like what I'd call like a deathcore rave section on this one, and that was very fun. It is going to fantastic. We also have Novelists with Coda. I'm so Another fairly bland and forgettable metalcore release this month from this French band. Strong vocals from Camille Contreras, and this being her first full-length outing with the band, but the songwriting is mostly just passable. The one interesting thing that stuck with me is Maldición de la Bruja, though it kind of feels out of place in the track listing, but I'd be interested to hear more tracks like that. It is going to good tier. Then we have Shadow of Intent with Imperium Delirium. Now, I must have been the only person I know that just did not much care for their previous album, Elegy, but the elements that got me into them to begin with are in full display on this album. Dizzying technical guitar work, dramatic symphonic atmosphere, and some of the best vocals in the genre. Start to finish banger. Everything on here is great, plus there are just some major highlights too. I think there are moments I said in my discography tier list where they outdo Lorna Shore at their own game with some of these and tighten things up. They don't feel the need to have these like 8-minute songs, although they do have that much longer closer. But I think it's less kind of trying to be epic for epic's sake, as Elegy did at times. And yeah, for those reasons, this is another one that's going to perfection. It kills. Moving over a little bit more here. We've got Orthodox with A Door Left Open. Now, I was looking forward to the 5th album from this Nashville crew based on the singles, but ultimately I found myself a little underwhelmed with it as a whole. Another case of it being undoubtedly heavy, but just not super memorable. And again, Mugshot, just everything this album I feel like tried to do, Mugshot just did better. and it did it no favors that it had to follow that. There are some cooler moments, like the more kind of car bomb and frontier sounding things like Searching for a Pulse. But yeah, it just didn't do a ton for me, but I'm going to put it at great tier. We also have Eyes with Spinner. This Danish crew back with their 3rd album, now signed to Prosthetic Records and sounding heavier than ever. I'd place their sound somewhere between, again, like Every Time I Die, Botch, but also like These Arms Are Snakes, uniting pure hardcore aggression with metal and noise influences alike. Lots of foot-tapping rhythms and riffs packed into a lean and mean 25 minutes. Landed it at amazing. Then there's Whitechapel with Hymns in Dissonance. Phil said that they were setting out to write their heaviest album with this one, and I think that they at least came close to that mark. And after those last 2 albums, which I didn't think were amazing, everybody loved them. I thought they were good. I enjoyed them, but just it wasn't bringing what I wanted as a longtime fan. And I didn't think we'd get another one like this, but they proved me wrong. They definitely still have the fire inside of them. No skips. It's not my favorite of the year, and I don't think it's as good as Shadow of Intent, personally. Maybe that's a hot take. You can let me know, but I put it at fantastic. There's also Architects with The Sky, the Earth, and All Between. Now, I used to love this band, but after years of what felt like such a downfall, I just started to lose hope in them, and they've kind of become a punchline for me in the videos. And again, it's such a shame because I own many of their albums up on my shelf, but this one is kind of frustrating, as there are some seriously heavy bangers like Black Hole, Whiplash, and Brain Dead, but then also some like just kind of milquetoast ones that got worse each time I listened to it. But they were not as good as the best tracks, and now as I come back to it, I'm starting to kind of like just hit skip on those over and over again. So we've got like half of an amazing album here, and then half of just like blah, like could completely do without it. So for that reason, since it kind of straddled the fence, I put it at great. Man, we also got a new Dead Guy, Near Death Travel Services. Following up their only other full length 30 years later. This was not something that I think anyone expected, but we were here for it. I think at this point, the only other thing we need for a comeback is Botch. Botch, are you going to do it? Are you going to put out a new album? I know they've said never, but so did Poison the Well, and we're getting one of those too. Anyways, tracks like Barn Burner and New Best Friend just make it feel like they never left. In fact, I went and listened to this back to back with the debut, and the closeness of them is insane. Just fusing mathcore with elements of noise rock. These guys are one of the OGs. I feel like if you're interested in dipping your toes into what true metalcore and mathcore was really about, because these guys go all the way back to like 95. This is what you need to be checking out. So I'm putting it at fantastic. And once again, just making a little last minute space here. We also have Heaven Shall Burn with Heimat. The 10th album from this German metalcore band formed way back in 1998, and one that often rides the line closely with melodic death metal, especially with the opening track. But overall, lots of comparisons here to Killswitch Engage on this record, both in riffs and vocals. They even go so far as to cover Numbered Days with Jesse Leach, which then I didn't really need that, but it's kind of cool. Would have just made for more of like a good live surprise, I guess. Strong listen, though. Overall, lots of comfort nostalgia here with that just 2000 sound. I'm putting it at Amazing. And then we have the Callous Dowboys with I Don't Want to See You in Heaven.
We all become cryptos. We say what's left to solve. Make blocks for the sharper bayonets.
No surprise that this ended up high on this list because they are probably my favorite modern day metalcore, mathcore band, but there's so much more to that too. Like they just mix so many sounds from my childhood, which is weird because they're so much younger than I am, but they've captured that same vibe and just seem to have such a passion for the same things that I do. And it comes together here in spades, and just everything about it is so good. They have yet to disappoint me with an album. In fact, they've yet to have an album that isn't at least like a 9 out of 10. And this is another one of those. So it is going to perfection. In fact, I'm going to put it all the way at the top. And now, just so you can see kind of where we're at so far, this is the full ranking for now. Y'all check out this playlist for more metalcore rankings, including discography rankings of some of the bands that we just talked about, or this for your personal YouTube recommendation. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.